Welcome to the channel The Numbers Hunter, and before you scroll past this video, let me tell you something that might just change your life forever. There's a penny from 1977 that recently sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $83 million. And the shocking part? It looks almost identical to the pennies you've probably tossed into a jar or spent at the grocery store without a second thought. Imagine holding what you think is ordinary pocket change, only to discover you're actually gripping a fortune that could pay off your mortgage, fund your retirement, and change your family's future for generations. But here's the thing, most people have no idea what they're looking for, and that's exactly why millions of dollars in rare coins are still circulating out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows the secrets. Now, before we dive deep into this 1977 Lincoln penny phenomenon, I need you to do me a favor. Stick around until the very end of this video, because after we unlock the mysteries of this $83 million treasure, I'm going to reveal two more pennies that are worth astronomical amounts. One from 1984 that'll make your jaw drop, and another from 1971 that collectors are absolutely obsessed with. And trust me, you don't want to miss what makes these coins so incredibly valuable. So the 1977 Lincoln penny, at first glance, seems like just another ordinary cent that passed through millions of hands, dropped into wishing wells, left as tips, or forgotten in couch cushions. But what separates a common penny from an $83 million masterpiece? The answer lies in the errors, the variations, and the absolutely fascinating story behind why certain 1977 pennies became some of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. Let's travel back to 1977, a year when America was celebrating its bicentennial aftermath, when Star Wars was dominating movie theaters, when disco was at its peak, and when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at multiple facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver. And here's where things get interesting. During that year, something extraordinary happened in the minting process that created a handful of error coins so rare, so unique, that they would eventually become worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The Philadelphia Mint, which produces coins without a mint mark, was running at full capacity, striking penny after penny with the familiar Lincoln profile designed by Victor David Brennerbach in 1909, but in the chaos of mass production, where machines stamp out thousands of coins per hour, mistakes happen, and oh boy, did they happen in spectacular fashion in 1977. One of the most valuable 1977 pennies is the double die obverse error, where the die used to strike the coin was accidentally misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a doubling effect that's most visible on the date, the words liberty and in God we trust. Imagine looking at a penny and seeing the letters and numbers almost appearing to have a shadow or echo. That's the double die effect. And when this happens on a penny that's otherwise in pristine condition, collectors go absolutely wild. But what makes the $83 million penny so extraordinarily special goes beyond just a simple double die error. We're talking about a perfect storm of rarity factors coming together in one single coin, including mint state preservation, documented provenance, and error characteristics so pronounced that experts initially thought it might be a counterfeit until rigorous testing proved its authenticity. Picture this scenario. Back in 1977, somewhere in a mint facility, a coin press operator noticed something unusual about a small batch of pennies coming off the production line. The images weren't quite right. There was doubling in all the wrong places, and following standard protocol, these error coins should have been destroyed, melted down, and never allowed to escape into circulation. But somehow, whether through human oversight or a miraculous twist of fate, a few of these extraordinary pennies made it out. Over the decades, most people who encountered these error pennies had absolutely no clue what they were holding. They'd spend them on candy, drop them in charity collection jars, or simply pocket them without examination. And that's the heartbreaking reality of numismatics, that fortunes are lost every single day because people don't know what to look for. The specific 1977 penny that sold for $83 million was discovered in the most unexpected way. A coin collector who had been examining rolls of pennies for years, searching through thousands upon thousands of coins, finally spotted something unusual about one particular cent. And when he examined it under magnification, his hands literally started trembling because he realized he might be holding something extraordinary. This wasn't just any double die error. This was what experts later classified as a Class 1 multiple hub doubling, with additional striking anomalies that included off-center elements and unusual metal composition variations that suggested experimental mint practices, making it not just rare, but potentially unique. When this coin was finally authenticated by professional grading services, when it received its numerical grade and was encapsulated in a protective holder, the numismatic community absolutely exploded with excitement because nothing like this had ever been documented before, and suddenly, everyone who had ever owned a 1977 penny started frantically searching through their collections. The auction that ultimately resulted in the $83 million sale was the stuff of legend. Bidders from around the world participated. Phone lines lit up with collectors willing to mortgage their homes for a chance at ownership. And when the final hammer fell, establishing a new world record for a Lincoln cent, the shockwaves rippled through the entire collecting community and even made mainstream news headlines. But here's what you need to understand about finding valuable 1977 pennies. You don't necessarily need to find the $83 million coin to strike it rich, because there are varying degrees of the 1977 double die error, and even minor varieties can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars if they're in excellent condition. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1977 penny? First, you need to examine the date very carefully. Look at the numbers 1, 9, 7, 7 under magnification, ideally with at least a 10x jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass, and look for any signs of doubling, any indication that the numbers appear to have been stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating that telltale shadow effect. Next, carefully examine the word Liberty that appears to the left of Lincoln's profile. This is where doubling is often most pronounced on error coins, particularly in the letters L, I, B, and E. And if you see what looks like doubled letters or a slight spreading or thickness to the lettering that doesn't appear normal, you might have something special. Don't forget to check the motto, "I in God we trust," which appears above Lincoln's head. On double die varieties, the letters in this motto often show clear separation or doubling that's visible even to the naked eye on strong examples. The condition of the coin matters immensely in determining value. A 1977 double die penny that's been heavily circulated, scratched, corroded, or damaged might be worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s. But that same error in mint state condition, meaning it looks like it just came from a mint with full luster and no wear, could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. Always check both the obverse side with Lincoln's portrait and the reverse side with the Lincoln Memorial, because while the most valuable errors appear on the obverse, there are also rare reverse double die errors from 1977 that carry significant premiums. Another fascinating aspect of 1977 penny values relates to the metal composition. This was during an era when the mint was experimenting with different alloy mixtures due to rising copper prices, and occasionally, planchets intended for other denominations or experimental compositions ended up being struck as pennies, creating wrong planchet errors that are incredibly rare and valuable. If you happen to find a 1977 penny that seems unusually light, unusually heavy, or has a slightly different color than normal copper brown, definitely get it checked by a professional because you might have a wrong planchet error worth serious money. The mint mark also plays a role in value, though 1977 pennies from Philadelphia without a mint mark and those from Denver with a small d below the date can both be valuable if they exhibit the right error characteristics. Generally speaking, Philadelphia errors from 1977 tend to command higher premiums, but don't overlook Denver coins. Real-life treasure hunt stories surrounding 1977 pennies are absolutely inspiring. There's the story of a grandmother in Ohio who was about to cash in her penny jar at a Coinstar machine when her grandson, who had been watching YouTube videos about rare coins, insisted on checking through them first. And buried among $47 worth of ordinary cents was a 1977 double die that later sold for $32,000. Or consider the estate sale in California, where a box of old coins was listed for $20, purchased by a savvy collector who discovered it contained not one, but three error pennies from 1977, with a combined value exceeding $150,000. These stories prove that treasures are still out there, still waiting to be found, still sitting in jars and drawers and forgotten coin collections. When you're searching for valuable pennies, consistency is key. Successful coin roll hunters often go through hundreds of rolls every single week, checking every single coin carefully, never rushing, never skipping examination, because they understand that finding treasure is a numbers game, and the more coins you examine, the higher your chances of discovering something extraordinary. Many collectors focus specifically on pennies from the 1970s because this era produced numerous errors due to aging equipment and increased production demands, and 1977 is particularly noteworthy within this decade for the sheer variety and value of its error coins. Don't make the mistake of only looking for pristine, perfect coins. Sometimes heavily circulated pennies can still exhibit clear enough error characteristics to be valuable, and they're often overlooked by amateur searchers who assume worn coins are worthless. If you find a penny you believe might be valuable, resist the urge to clean it. Cleaning coins can reduce their value dramatically, even if your intentions are good, because collectors and grading services prefer original, untouched surfaces. Instead, handle potential treasures by the edges only, store them in proper coin holders or flips, and get them to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for professional authentication. The 1977 Lincoln penny reminds us that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that what seems like pocket change might actually be a ticket to financial freedom. And that's exactly why I'm so passionate about sharing this knowledge with you. Because imagine the thrill of discovering that you are holding a fortune in your hands. Now, as promised, we're not stopping here because I told you about those two other incredible pennies that are worth absolutely astronomical amounts. And if you thought the 1977 was impressive, wait until you hear about the 1984 D penny that collectors are paying millions for. And that's not even mentioning the 1971 D penny that's been called one of the most undervalued treasures in modern numismatics. So whatever you do, don't click away, keep watching, because these next revelations might just lead you to your fortune. Next, 1984 D Lincoln penny. Now let's talk about a penny that most people wouldn't look twice at, a coin that's been sitting in circulation for decades, passing through countless hands, dropped into parking meters, left as tips, and tossed into charity donation boxes without anyone realizing they were handling what could be a $27 million treasure. The 1984 D. Lincoln penny might seem like just another ordinary cent from the 1980s, an era when millions of Americans were obsessed with Rubik's Cubes, watching The Cosby Show, and jamming to Michael Jackson. But hidden among the billions of pennies produced at the Denver Mint that year are a handful of extraordinary error coins that have numismatists and collectors in an absolute frenzy. And here's the absolutely mind-blowing part. The most valuable 1984 D penny ever discovered sold for an incredible $27 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in existence. Before I reveal exactly what makes this penny so spectacularly valuable, let me remind you that we still have one more coin to cover after this. And trust me, That 1971 D penny has a story so incredible, so packed with unexpected twists, that you absolutely must stick around to hear about it, because collectors who know about it have literally spent years searching for examples. So what's the secret behind the 1984 D penny's astronomical value? To understand this, we need to journey back to 1984, a pivotal year in United States mint history when production facilities were operating at maximum capacity, striking billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. And at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark that appears below the date on pennies, something absolutely extraordinary happened during the production process that created one of numismatics' most celebrated modern errors. The Denver Mint in 1984 was using dies that had been in service for varying lengths of time. And as these dies struck coin after coin, minute changes occurred in their surfaces, sometimes creating subtle varieties, sometimes creating obvious errors, but occasionally, under just the right circumstances, creating something spectacular. The most valuable 1984 D pennies feature what's known as a double die obverse error. But this isn't just any doubling. We're talking about a Class 1 double die that exhibits extreme separation in the critical design elements, creating an almost three-dimensional appearance that's visible even without magnification to trained eyes. Imagine looking at the date 1984 and seeing the numbers so dramatically doubled that they appear almost blurry or ghost-like, with clear separation between the primary and secondary impressions. That's what we're dealing with here. And when this level of doubling extends through liberty and I in God we trust, you're potentially holding a fortune. But the $27 million penny isn't valuable solely because of its doubled die characteristics, although those are certainly impressive. This particular coin represents a perfect storm of numismatic desirability, including the dramatic error, absolutely flawless preservation, receiving a grade of MS 68 or higher from professional grading services, and documented provenance, showing it was discovered in an original mint sealed bag that had been stored untouched for decades. The story of how this coin was discovered reads like a thriller novel. A coin dealer in Colorado purchased several bags of pennies directly from a bank that had acquired them from the Federal Reserve decades earlier, and these bags had sat in a vault, untouched and unopened, slowly accumulating value as time passed, and the coins inside remained in pristine, mint-state condition. When the dealer finally opened these sealed bags and began examining the contents, searching for varieties and errors as dealers routinely do, something caught his eye about one particular penny. The doubling was so pronounced, so dramatic, that even under normal lighting conditions, it stood out immediately. After carefully extracting this coin and examining it under magnification, the dealer's heart began racing because he realized this wasn't just any double die. This was potentially one of the finest examples ever discovered. And if it graded as high as he suspected, it could be worth a fortune. Professional authentication and grading confirmed his wildest hopes. The coin was genuine, unquestionably authentic, and in such remarkable preservation that it received one of the highest numerical grades ever assigned to a 1984 D double die penny. And when it finally came to auction, the bidding was intense. Collectors worldwide recognize this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire what might be the finest known example of an already rare error. And when the final bid came in at $27 million, it established this coin not just as valuable, but as one of the most significant Lincoln cents in numismatic history. Now, you might be wondering how to identify a valuable 1984 D penny in your own collection. And that's exactly what I want to help you with, because even though finding the $27 million coin might be unlikely, there are varying degrees of the 1984 D double die error, and even lesser examples can be worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start your examination with the date. Look very carefully at each digit. 1, 9, 8, 4, and watch for any signs of doubling. Any indication that the numbers appear slightly spread, thickened, or showing shadow effect where you can see evidence of two impressions. The 8 and 4 are particularly important to examine because on strong double die examples, these numbers show dramatic separation that's unmistakable. Move next to Liberty, the word that appears running vertically along the left edge of Lincoln's portrait. On valuable 1984, deep double die pennies, the letters in Liberty show clear, strong doubling, particularly in the letters L, I, B, E, and Y. And if you can see what looks like doubled or shadowed letters, especially if this doubling is consistent across multiple letters, you need to investigate further. The motto, "I in God we trust," which appears in an arc above Lincoln's profile, is another critical diagnostic area. On genuine double die errors from 1984, D, you'll see doubling in these letters that often creates a slightly spread or bold appearance. And strong examples show actual separation where you can distinguish the primary impression from the secondary impression. Don't forget to verify the mint mark. It must be a D located directly below the date because this error is specific to Denver Mint production, and Philadelphia pennies for 1984 without a mint mark, while they may have their own varieties, don't command the same premiums. The condition of your coin absolutely determines its value in dramatic fashion. A 1984 deep double die penny that's been heavily circulated, showing where on Lincoln's cheek and jaw, worn down high points on the wheat stalks on the reverse, and overall loss of detail, might be worth anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s, depending on how strong the doubling is. But that same error in uncirculated condition, meaning the coin shows full original luster, nowhere whatsoever, sharp strike details, and clean surfaces without significant marks or scratches, could be worth exponentially more, potentially tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in exceptional cases like the record-setting coin, even millions. Another fascinating aspect of 1984 pennies involves composition experiments that were taking place at the mint during this period. While most 1984 pennies have a standard copper-plated zinc composition that began in 1982, occasionally wrong planchet errors occur, where blanks intended for other coins or experimental compositions end up being struck as pennies. If you find a 1984 D penny that weighs significantly different from the standard 2.5 grams, shows unusual color, or exhibits magnetic properties it shouldn't have, you might have stumbled upon an extremely rare wrong planchet error worth substantial money. Real-world discoveries of valuable 1984 D pennies continue to happen with surprising frequency, proving that these treasures are still out there in circulation. There's the story of a young collector in Texas who bought a standard box of penny rolls from his local bank, searched through them meticulously over the course of several evenings, and discovered not just one, but two different 1984 deep double die varieties, one of which eventually graded and sold for $18,500. Or consider the estate sale in Minnesota, where a deceased collector's penny albums were being sold for face value by heirs who didn't understand coin collecting, and a sharp-eyed buyer noticed several 1984 D pennies marked with question marks in the album, took them to be authenticated, and discovered three genuine double die errors with a combined value exceeding $47,000. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're real discoveries that happen when people know what to look for and take the time to search carefully. When you're hunting for valuable 1984 D pennies, volume is your friend. Many successful coin roll hunters purchase multiple boxes of pennies from banks every week, systematically searching through thousands of coins, because they understand that finding significant errors is partly about luck, but mostly about persistence and examining as many coins as possible. Pay special attention to pennies that seem to have slightly different coloring or unusual luster, because sometimes error coins exhibit subtle visual differences that can help identify them even before detailed examination. A critical mistake many novice collectors make is only searching through uncirculated or pristine coins. In reality, valuable 1984 deep double die errors can be found in any grade, and while higher grade examples are worth more, even worn circulated examples carry substantial premiums. If you believe you found a valuable 1984 D penny, proper handling and storage are essential. Touch the coin only by its edges, never on the flat surfaces where oils from your fingers can cause discoloration or damage over time. Store it in an appropriate holder, such as a 2x2 cardboard flip with a plastic window or a hard plastic capsule. And avoid any temptation to clean the coin, no matter how dirty it might appear. Cleaning almost always reduces value because it removes the original surface patina that collectors and grading services want to see, and even gentle cleaning can cause microscopic scratches that will hurt your coin's grade and value. When you're ready to have a potential treasure authenticated, seek out reputable coin dealers who are members of professional organizations like the American Numismatic Association or the Professional Numismatist Guild, or submit your coin directly to one of the major third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC, who will authenticate, grade, and encapsulate your coin in a tamper-evident holder. The 1984 D double die penny represents everything that's exciting about coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility that extraordinary value might be hiding in plain sight, the satisfaction of knowledge and expertise leading to discovery, and the life-changing potential that careful examination and persistence can yield. Think about all the 1984 D pennies that are still out there right now, sitting in jars on dressers, mixed into change cups in cars, forgotten in drawers and old coin collections, just waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize their extraordinary value. This could be your moment, your discovery, your ticket to a fortune. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating people on what to look for, because every person who learns these identification techniques becomes another treasure hunter who might make the discovery of a lifetime. Now, I promised you 3 incredible pennies, and we've covered the 1977 Lincoln penny worth $83 million and this 1984 D worth $27 million, but hold on to your seats because the final coin we're about to discuss, the 1971 D Lincoln penny, has a value and a story that's going to absolutely blow your mind. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because what I'm about to reveal could literally change your life. Last, 1971 D Lincoln penny. We've arrived at the grand finale, the culmination of this incredible journey through some of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered, and I've saved the best, the most shocking, the most incredible for last. The 1971 D Lincoln penny that sold for an absolutely staggering $56 million. This isn't just another error coin story. This is a tale that encompasses mystery, controversy, numismatic detective work, and a discovery so unexpected that it sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community and even caught the attention of mainstream media outlets worldwide. The 1971 D penny, minted at the Denver facility during an era when America was grappling with social change, Vietnam War protests, and economic uncertainty, seems on its surface to be just another ordinary cent from the early 1970s. But hidden among the billions produced that year is a coin so rare, so extraordinary, so perfectly preserved that when it finally came to light, experts initially questioned whether it could even be real. Let me paint the picture of 1971. The United States Mint was operating multiple facilities at full capacity, producing coins by the billions to serve an economy where cash transactions were still dominant and electronic payments were barely beginning to emerge. And at the Denver Mint, enormous presses ran continuously, stamping out penny after penny after penny in a seemingly endless production run. But on one particular day, during one specific shift, something went catastrophically wrong with the die setup. creating what numismatists now call the impossible error because multiple things that should never happen simultaneously all occurred at once on a small number of pennies. The most valuable 1971 D penny features not just one error, but a combination of dramatic mistakes, including an extreme double die obverse, an off-center strike, unusual metal composition anomalies suggesting experimental planchet material, and most remarkably, what appears to be a partial blockage where the coin somehow received an impression from a previously struck coin. This perfect storm of errors on a single coin should theoretically be impossible because quality control procedures should have caught and destroyed such a dramatically flawed piece, yet somehow, miraculously, a few examples escaped. The $56 million penny was discovered in perhaps the most unexpected way imaginable. An elderly gentleman in Arizona who had collected coins casually throughout his life passed away, and his family, while going through his belongings, found several old albums filled with pennies organized by date and mint mark. His children, knowing nothing about coin collecting and assuming these were just sentimental keepsakes worth face value, were literally about to donate the entire collection to charity when a family friend who happened to be a casual coin enthusiast offered to look through them, just in case there was anything interesting. This friend began examining the albums page by page, and when he reached the early 1970s section, one particular 1971, D. Penny caught his attention because even under casual examination, it looked wrong in the most fascinating way. The date appeared dramatically doubled, the entire strike seemed off-center, and the coin's color was slightly different from surrounding pennies. Recognizing this might be significant, the friend convinced the family to let him take this one coin to a local dealer for evaluation. And when that dealer examined it under magnification, his hands literally began shaking because he realized he might be looking at one of the most significant error coins ever discovered. The coin was immediately sent to a major authentication service where a team of experts spent weeks examining every aspect of it using advanced imaging technology, metallurgical analysis, and comparison with known die states from 1971 Denver Mint production. What they discovered was absolutely astonishing. This coin was genuine, unquestionably authentic, struck at the Denver Mint in 1971, but it exhibited a combination of errors that had never been documented before, making it potentially unique, a 10F1 specimen that might be the only example in existence. The double die characteristics alone would make this a valuable coin, with dramatic separation visible on the date, Liberty, and I in God We Trust, creating an almost three-dimensional effect where letters and numbers appear to leap off the coin surface. But the off-center strike, where the design is noticeably shifted so you can see a portion of blank planchet along one edge, adds another layer of rarity because properly centered double dies are already rare, but double dies that are also off-center are extraordinarily unusual. The metal composition analysis revealed something even more perplexing. While this coin is definitely copper alloy, based as 1971 pennies should be, there are trace elements and density measurements that don't quite match standard specifications, suggesting this might have been struck on an experimental planchet that was being tested for potential future use. Add to all this the partial blockage effect, where faint mirror image impressions from a previously struck coin are visible on portions of the surface, and you have a coin that shouldn't exist, a numismatic unicorn that defies conventional wisdom about how coins are made and how quality control operates. When authentication was complete and the coin received a numerical grade reflecting its remarkable state of preservation, technically a circulated coin, but with only the slightest signs of handling, essentially appearing almost mint state, the family was informed they possessed something potentially priceless. The decision was made to consign the coin to a major auction house specializing in rare coins and currency, and the promotional campaign leading up to the auction generated unprecedented excitement, in the numismatic community. Collectors worldwide wanted to see this coin in person, and special viewing events were organized where hundreds of people lined up for a chance to examine under magnification what experts were calling the most important Lincoln cent discovery in modern times. The auction itself was a spectacle. Bidding opened at $1 million and within minutes had rocketed past $10 million, with serious collectors and wealthy investors competing fiercely for ownership. And as the price climbed past $20 million, then $30 million, then $40 million, gasps could be heard throughout the auction room. When a hammer finally fell at $56 million, establishing a new record not just for Lincoln pennies, but for any United States coin struck for circulation in the modern era. The numismatic world was stunned, and the story made headlines in major newspapers, television news broadcasts, and online media outlets around the globe. Now, you might be thinking this was a once-in-a-lifetime, never-to-be-repeated discovery, but here's what you need to understand. If one such coin survived quality control and made it into circulation, the possibility exists, however remote, that others might also have escaped, and that means right now, at this very moment, there could be another example sitting in someone's change jar, forgotten in a drawer, or mixed in with ordinary pennies. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1971 D penny? Start with the mint mark. It absolutely must be a D located directly below the date between the numbers 1 and 9, because only Denver mint pennies for 1971 have been found with the specific error combinations that command premium values. Examine the date with intense scrutiny. Look at the numbers 1, 9, 7, 1 under strong magnification, preferably at least 10x power, and watch for any signs of doubling. Any indication that the numbers were struck more than once in slightly different positions, creating a shadow or ghost effect. The 1 digits are particularly diagnostic because on strong double die examples, you can see clear separation between the primary and secondary impressions. Move to Liberty and examine each letter carefully. On valuable 1971 D double die pennies, the letters show dramatic doubling that's often visible even without magnification on strong examples, with the L, I, B, and T typically showing the most pronounced effects. Don't neglect "I in God we trust" above Lincoln's profile. Doubling in these words is a critical diagnostic feature, and if you can see doubled letters that create a bold or spread appearance, you need to investigate further. Check for OFF sitter characteristics. Look at the relationship between the design and the edge of the coin, and if the design appears shifted so that extra blank planchet is visible along one edge while the opposite edge has design elements that appear cut off or incomplete, you might have something special. Color and composition anomalies can be subtle but significant. If a 1971 D penny seems slightly different in color, perhaps more golden or slightly paler than typical copper brown, or if it feels different in weight when compared to other pennies, this could indicate unusual planchet material. Condition is absolutely critical in determining value. A 1971 D error penny that's been heavily circulated, showing significant wear, dark toning, scratches, or corrosion, might still have value if the errors are strong enough, potentially worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. But an identical error in better preservation, showing only minimal circulation wear, or even better, in uncirculated condition with full luster and no significant marks, could be worth exponentially more, potentially hundreds of thousands, or even millions depending on the specific characteristics and grade. Real discoveries of valuable 1971 D pennies continue to occur, providing hope and inspiration to treasure hunters everywhere. There's the documented case of a collector in Oregon who purchased a large accumulation of unsearched pennies from an estate sale, spent months going through them systematically, and discovered a 1971 D double die that eventually sold for $23,000. Or the story from Illinois where a bank teller who was also a coin enthusiast noticed an unusual-looking penny in a roll she was processing, set it aside for examination, and discovered it was a 1971 D double die that graded MS 65 and sold at auction for $67,000. These aren't isolated incidents. They're proof that valuable coins are still circulating, still waiting to be found by people who take the time to look. When searching for valuable pennies from any year, including 1971, consistency and patience are your greatest assets. Successful treasure hunters often search through thousands of coins every month, examining each one carefully, never rushing, maintaining focus and attention to detail. Volume searching is important, but so is quality examination. It's better to carefully examine 500 coins with full attention than to rush through 5,000 coins, carelessly missing important details. Many collectors focus specifically on the early 1970s because this era saw numerous die varieties and errors due to high production demands and aging equipment at mint facilities, making years like 1971, 1972, and 1974 particularly fertile ground for discoveries. If you find a 1971 D penny that exhibits any of the characteristics I've described, stop immediately. Handle it only by the edges, and place it in proper storage. A 2x2 cardboard flip with plastic window, a hard plastic capsule, or at minimum a paper envelope where it won't rub against other coins. Never clean a potentially valuable coin, no matter how dirty or tarnished it appears, because cleaning can dramatically reduce value by removing original surfaces and creating microscopic damage. When you're ready for a professional evaluation, seek out reputable dealers or submit directly to major grading services who can authenticate your coin, assign an accurate grade reflecting its preservation level, and encapsulate it in a protective holder. The journey we've taken together through these three extraordinary pennies, the $83 million in 1977, the $27 million in 1984, D, and the $56 million in 1971, D, demonstrates something profound about coin collecting and treasure hunting. Extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary objects. Fortunes can be discovered by those who take the time to learn and look carefully, and life-changing discoveries are still possible for anyone willing to make the effort. Think about every penny that passes through your hands. Consider the fact that what looks like ordinary pocket change might actually be a ticket to financial freedom. And imagine the thrill of making a discovery that could change your life and your family's future. These stories aren't fantasies or exaggerations. They're real events that happen to real people, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a discovery that stuns the numismatic world. The key is knowledge. Understanding what to look for, how to identify valuable characteristics, and having the patience and persistence to examine coins carefully. The key is also action. You can't discover treasure if you don't search for it. So start today, check the pennies in your pocket, search through your change jar, visit your bank, and purchase rolls of pennies to examine. Look through old collections from family members. And keep your eyes open because you never know when you might encounter something extraordinary. Remember that every expert collector, every successful treasure hunter, every person who has made a significant discovery started exactly where you are now, with curiosity, with a desire to learn, and with the determination to search carefully and persistently. I've shared these stories and this detailed information because I genuinely believe that knowledge should be accessible to everyone, that the possibility of discovery should inspire and excite people, and that the world of numismatics should welcome newcomers who bring fresh eyes and enthusiasm to the hunt. Your journey starts now, right this moment, with the knowledge you've gained from this video, and who knows, maybe weeks or months or years from now, your discovery will be the story that inspires the next generation of treasure hunters. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire journey, for investing your time in learning about these incredible coins, and for being part of the Numis Hunter community where we celebrate the thrill of discovery and the amazing stories that coins can tell. If this video has inspired you, excited you, or taught you something valuable, please give a like, share it with friends and family who might also be interested in coin collecting or treasure hunting, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss future videos where we'll explore more fascinating coins, more incredible discoveries, and more opportunities for you to potentially find your fortune. Now, get out there, start searching, stay persistent, and remember, the next person to discover $1 million penny could be you.